Hello and welcome to the morning after show presented by our sponsors, betonline.ag. My name is Joshua Reimer. I'm joined by none other than Jared Block, who is on my right. Jared, how was the weekend for you, man?
It was all football and nothing else. So we're going to have to
No?
talk about what else happened in the world. But for me, it was basically football all weekend. Had a little bit of stuff going on Saturday morning with the fam, which was nice. Can picture. I don't know if your sister dances at all or is in dance competitions or anything like that, but
Nope.
picture 1,500 girls in a school. That's what my Saturday morning was like.
Oh,
Actually, it probably was more than that. But yeah, my sister's a senior in high school, so it was the last
very
one.
nice.
And yeah, that was something that I'm not going back to my high school until her graduation date, and then I never have a reason to go back there again.
There you go. I don't know. I don't think I've been back to my high school since I graduated. Like, I think I drove by it and it was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, yeah, I don't care anymore. We moved past those times. But it definitely sounds chaotic. But glad to hear you had a good weekend. Man, these football games, it looked like it wasn't going to be great. But things definitely turned into. We had some good games. We had some bad games, obviously, some blowout games. But I'm definitely excited to talk about it with you. And we have even more to talk about. We have UFC, a crazy win by Calvin Cater over Giga Chikadze. Have to talk about NBA and how the weekend went. And then esports update. We had a big win over the weekend. So lots to talk about with the world of sports and everything we missed out on during the weekend. So let's start talking about it. And we're going to kick it off with the wild card weekend recap. We're going to start off with my personal favorite game, the game that had me standing up and shouting at my TV throughout a whole fourth quarter. It is none other than the 49ers facing off against the Cowboys. 49ers come out victorious. Even though they made me sweat a little bit, they still get the win and move on to the next round. Cowboys, some interesting play calls, probably one of the most undisciplined football games I've ever seen an NFL team play. I think Romo said it best when he said, the Niners obviously deserve this win, but the Cowboys really shot themselves in the foot.
That they did, and capping by one of the strangest endings of a game. Nonetheless, the playoff game in the first place. Yeah, it was. Everything was weird about that game, and that's really the only. I think that is the biggest headline of the entire weekend. The only underdog that won, the only underdog that really kept it competitive outside of the Raiders. And I guess I know that we still have a game tonight, but wildcard weekend was defined by the Niners beating the Cowboys.
Yeah, again, like, hate to keep touching back on what Romo kept saying, but I thought Romo did. I'm so happy Romo was calling this game. He did a
Great game.
phenomenal job.
Yep.
The whole announcement crew did an amazing job with this game. But he was just talking about, like, this 49ers team, so underrated. Like, yeah, they had to deal with bad injuries throughout the year, but this is one of the six teams that's a top 10 team on defense, a top 10 team on offense. You don't see that around the league much, but you do see it with this Niners team. So it's a tough matchup for anyone. It's a team that can run. It's a team that only blitzes with the 4 defensive linemen. They usually don't send the blitz, even though they did kind of to win the game in that last defensive drive, or one of the last defensive drives. Let's talk about that draw play, because this draw play is super interesting at the end of the game. So how it works out, Niners are playing prevent defense, right? They're just trying to prevent a touchdown here because they had to give the ball back to the Cowboys. You see Dak run it up the middle because they're kind of preparing for the pass. He gets around, 15 yards maybe, and then isn't able to spike the ball in time. And so time runs out. But you saw Dak and Mike McCarthy kind of stand up for this play at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, they did. They went back on and said during the pressers that that was the play call. They would do it again, etc. Um, Very controversial because the ref has to touch the ball.
Yep.
If they had executed the play correctly, they would have given the ball directly to the referee instead of the offensive lineman,
Mm-hmm.
and that was where everything messed up. I also mentioned, I don't know exactly what the yardage was. I think that he ran like 2 seconds too long. So if he would have
Yeah.
slid and stopped himself 5 yards earlier, like Zerline, yes, he's been a little bit shaky, but sorry, they don't even need Zerline. I don't even know why I said that, but you know, there's a decision that needed to be made before that, and I'm sure that they went through that already. They could either throw 2 Hail Marys of 40 plus yards, or they could try one shot at under 25 yards. And they chose the latter, and it backfired. So, I mean, McCarthy's getting a lot of scrutiny, and frankly, I think that he should be more so on the disciplinary side, because you talk about how many penalties they had, how much that affected everything that they were doing. Um, their defensive lineman that had that crucial penalty late said that he blamed the entire game on himself and posted that to social media. It's not his fault. The entire team was just a disaster. They were not disciplined yesterday. Cedric Wilson had a block in the back penalty that was crucial. Lots of holds. Their offensive line just was not what they were used to doing, and maybe they just underrated the defensive pressure all game. I don't know. It was just not. It was just not privy to what the Cowboys were doing all season long, and that's probably the main reason why everybody's shocked about that today.
Man, you say that. This is a team that's been I mean, this is just like the Niners, which Niners actually, kind of made things better for this game. They still had 9 penalties at the end of the day. A lot of those penalties in the fourth quarter, but like both of these teams are very penalty happy. You saw it all throughout the season. They're both in the bottom 10 of penalties in yards for their penalties that they've had. So, both of these teams play mistake football at the end of the day, and I just think, with the Cowboys, like you had so many pre-snap penalties. And pre-snap penalties, penalties while you're playing is a little bit different. Sometimes you're going too hard. I can understand that. But pre-snap penalties is all about just your focus in the game. And if it's just they weren't focused at some points, and it's just absolutely absurd. And I remember coming out of halftime, they had a 3rd and 1, and then they had back-to-back false starts, and it turns into a 3rd and 11. Like the drastic difference of that. Now they ended up, punting, and then they got the roughing the punter penalty, and so they ended up getting a first down out of all of it. But like going from 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 11 feels like a game shifter at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, exactly. And I mean, we're not even talking about the fact that their running game just was non-existent. Like, I saw that coming. A lot of people still are on this train of like, oh, their running back team's good. It's not. It's terrible. Zeke has been atrocious, and I don't know what you do with him anymore. He's gonna say it was because of injury, and maybe that's the reason, but he had his worst year as a Cowboy. And he's getting to the point where I think I've already thought that Pollard's been the better back this entire time. But you really have to take the Cowboys off season is going to be one of the most interesting things to watch, because they said during the game several times that, like it's that, and this is a crazy thing because you can talk about it on both teams. This is both of their windows. The Cowboys, I think, maybe a little bit more on that side of things, but you have your quarterback who is finally not injured, even though he missed a good chunk of the season. Thankfully surrounded by a bye week, but you have the offensive line who has a lot of older pieces to it, and you have a lot of really young studs on defense. You have pretty young skill players, at least in CD Lamb, and I think that Schultz and Cooper in their own right are still pretty young. Cooper's been around forever, so I mean he's still one of the youngest receivers. 27 years old, still has a lot of bit of time left. So Zeke, though, on the other hand, like running back years are definitely running out there. I think he's already past his prime, and that's really sad to say. But he's 26 years old, a lot of miles there. I just don't see how he bounces back and has one of his vintage seasons. Apparently, he played part of the season with a torn PCL. I mean, that's just part of the game, right? Like, he's been pretty healthy for so long. You just have so many things going right for the Cowboys, and then you have this coaching change. You finally get rid of Garrett. Like, everything's kind of clicking. You have a really awesome OC who, I think is not getting enough of this blame. I think of Mike McCarthy's taking the brunt of it just for the stuff that happened late in the game. Time management, not one of Mike McCarthy's biggest skills. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where you thought that they had what it took, and had a lot of people saying that this team was Super Bowl material throughout the entire season. and they get knocked out in the first round because of a lot of really just basic football IQ things.
Yeah. You talk about where Zeke is right now. I mean, they offered him that huge contract, so he's currently signed to the 6-year, $90 million deal. They have an out in 2023. I feel like they most likely take that out. It'll obviously result in them hitting a dead cap, but like I think the time of Zeke has passed. I think he just has too many miles on him, and that's just what you see with NFL running backs most of the time. I know he has an injury, but most of these running backs are banged up by the end of the day.
Oh, sure. Everybody's hurt
As,
now.
exactly. There's almost every player on the field that's hurt. You just got to learn to get through it, and he clearly has. I mean, like he had a 10-yard rush, and Romo was like, "Wow, that's the best rush we've seen from him all day," and it was like Eli Mitchell did that like 7 times this game. Like what? Like how? Like I don't know. It seems like the days of Zeke has passed. Talk about this Niners team though. Outside of some mistakes that were made in the fourth quarter, this team proved why they made it here in the playoffs and why they're going to be a dangerous team for everyone they face coming up.
Yeah, it was a crucial third quarter, fourth quarter for Jimmy G in his career. I said in the Discord that if he wins, he stays. That's basically his thing. If he loses, he's gone. I don't think that man. I mean, like, not like staying permanently. I meant like if he wins, he stays, and his future is up in the air until the next game. That's kind of how
Yeah.
that's kind of how things are going right now. So you have a lot of the running game was just incredible. They don't need this all-around amazing passer to do things, and he can step up and do it a couple times a season. But they just don't need that kind of quarterback in this offense, which is why I think that Trey Lance, being the better passer of the two, long term, I think that he's going to be perfect for that system because he does one thing more than Jimmy Garoppolo can do, which is run himself. So once they figure that out, and you have guys like Debo, if he can stay healthy throughout an entire year, who looked great yesterday, and like we just saw, this team ran 499 times in the regular season, and like only 20 of those were from Jimmy Garoppolo. So if you add like an extra 50 plus with a quarterback, I think it's great. And their defense stepped up yesterday. So let's talk about what any updates to your two stars, Bosa and Fred. What does that mean for them? Do we know what their statuses are right now?
I know Nick Bosa's dad said that Nick was doing well after the concussion. Who knows what concussion protocol is going to look like for him. I think he should be good to go by what is it, Saturday or Sunday that we're going to have the Packers versus the Niners, or is that up in the
It's
air?
Saturday.
Okay, so that kind of sucks that it's a short week for the Niners. That's probably going to hurt them a little bit. I think Warner's going to be just fine. I know he wasn't in on that last drive, but a lot of reports were saying that he was ready to go. He had his helmet on. He was jumping up and down when he was celebrating when the Niners got that stop. And so, I think he's going to be just fine for Saturday. It's going to be really tough to see if Bosa's going to be ready. I mean, with concussion protocol, hopefully he'll be all right, but they have to, it's so meticulous and they have to pass so many tests to get past that protocol. It takes a while. And so maybe you're not with Bosa, and that hurts the team a lot. I mean, the 4-man rush that they have is so dominant at the end of the day. Like the fact that most of the time this team is not blitzing, they're just using that 4-man rush, and they can continue to just put a ton of pressure on the quarterback. It's scary. And they can do that without Bosa, but Bosa helps that defensive line quite a bit.
Sure. I mean, that's just the reason that works is because everybody else is doing their job too. So if Warner's not able to go, then that makes things a little bit more tough. Obviously, elephant in the room is that our teams play each other this weekend, which is great. We also have to figure out what we're gonna do because UFC pay-per-view is also on.
Oh my good! No way it's on at that's gonna be a hectic few hours for sure. That'll be a lot of fun though.
Yeah, so that's that. They overlap a little bit, but not too much. So
okay, good.
We have to figure out what we're doing with that, but also the Packers have to figure out what they're doing with all of their guys that are coming back from injury. So you have Whitney Merciless coming back. You have Sedarius Smith, both of those guys on the defensive line. Jair Alexander is expected to play at corner. David Bakhtiari is expected to play at left tackle. And they get their center, Josh Myers, back as well. And my whole thing with a couple of buddies in mind was that, this team's played well despite those guys not being there. As Matt LaFleur, how do you coach your team? How do you make those decisions? How do you say our Pro Bowler type players, our all pro type players are coming back? Do you give the players that just, put their blood, sweat, and tears out on the field and played well the bench? Like, how do you do that?
No.
So I don't know what that means. And I also don't know, like, yeah, Bakhtiari hasn't played in almost an entire calendar year outside of a quarter against the Detroit Lions pass rush. Like, do
Yeah.
you put him back in there against a matchup with Bosa every now and then? Like, I don't know how smart that is to do. Do you put Jair Alexander and give him Ayuk, or have him follow Debo around after he hasn't played for 2 months? I just don't really know what the situation's going to be. So a lot of question marks surrounding the game. All we know is there's 7 teams currently in the playoffs right now, and we'll find out who that 8th one is tonight.
Yeah, I don't mean to I don't want to look ahead too much because I know we have plenty on the docket for this wildcard weekend recap. But odds for this Packers and Niners game is set with the Packers. It opened up at 4.5. That 4.5 quickly shifted to 5.5 points. Now Packers minus 5.5, minus 245 money line, over under at 47.5. What do you think of the minus 5.5? Because as a non-biased sports bettor, I'd be betting the crap out of minus 5.5 right now. I don't know about you, but
Oh, you're saying it's too low still?
I think so. I think you guys should be favored by a touchdown at the end of the day.
Mm, well, yeah, it's kind of hard to not be biased here. So,
I know. I'm
no,
trying to take the.
I think the
I mean,
number's
like
too low.
I'm saying this drinking out of my 49ers mug with my 49ers sweatshirt on. Like I'm a 49ers fan here, but like if I'm taking my bias out of it, you guys should be a touchdown favorite.
Okay, I mean, I think it feels too low
Really?
a little bit, and I guess Lambeau helps, the cold helps. It's not going to be. I think that definitely is an advantage. The home field in general is an advantage, just because Packers. It's literally almost impossible to get a road team into Lambeau, like in the field. You can do it outside, but you can't really do it in the field most of the time. So it's it's expected to be extremely cold, like
Yeah. I was just looking at
under
it.
like single digits, and there's a chance for wind chills under, like kind of like what that Bills Patriots game was. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's a little bit too low. I don't feel 100% comfortable betting that number, and it's mostly because I think that they find a way to cover in the fourth quarter, and then it's kind of one of those things where the Packers defense has to make a stop at the end of the game.
Yeah, Bacon says he's a Niners fan here. He's also biased, but I know that comes from him not liking the Packers very much. All right, we've talked enough about the Niners and their big win over the Cowboys. Let's talk about some of these other games that we had over the weekend, including the Bengals game where they end up getting a big win against the Raiders. What were your thoughts on this game, Jared?
Yeah, besides the huge win over the Chiefs, this one was the biggest win that they've had in 31 years. I believe that's the number that they gave out on
Wow.
when they won a playoff game last. So yeah, Bengals. They've been to the playoffs a couple times under Andy Dalton. They were always the wild card road team. They always got beat, and this is huge. Like this is while the Dallas Cowboys and Niners are in their windows, the Bengals are just at the start of theirs.
Mhm.
They have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, all very, very young players. Joe Mixon, while he's on the back half of his starter contract miles um, area there, he is still. I think he has a couple of years left of being really relevant. The Bengals defense has looked very good. They had a lot of injuries to their defensive line, which is not going to bode well for them moving forward here. But I do think that the window for this team is starting right now this season. Now, you saw the Steelers. Big Ben probably played his last game. They're going to start rebuilding to a certain extent. Um, so you still have some time in that. The Browns still have a lot of things to figure out there. the Ravens, they will be a thorn in the Bengals side for the next decade, at
Yeah,
least if those two quarterbacks continue to stay there. And you have to think about like Joe Burrow, kind of an old quarterback already. He's going to be 25 next year.
yeah,
You have a few years where you're not paying him much money, and you're also not paying Jamar Chase, at least for the next couple of seasons. So that's your window of time. Because frankly, they're going to have a tough time. Speaking from a Packers fan who's paying Devontae and Aaron, you only have a certain amount of window of time here, and before
yeah.
these guys get super, super, super expensive. And if Joe Burrow continues to do the things that he's doing, he's going to get major bank here coming soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, my takeaway is what an incredible game from Jamar Chase here. Like, dealing with Casey, dealing with tough coverage from the corners, from the Raiders. We talked about how this matchup wasn't ideal for him. I know T. Higgins got a lot of that really good coverage as
He
well,
got
but
a lot, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, surprisingly, I think it surprised both of us that Chase wasn't the guy who got covered. But still, even their second corner isn't that bad. Overall, that secondary for the Raiders is pretty good. And Jamar Chase pops off for 9 and 116. Like, he's truly special. As a rookie to do that in your first playoff game, like that's next level type of stuff. So I agree. You're probably paying Jamar Chase an absolute bag once it gets to that. Luckily, you have 3 more seasons until you have to do that. Joe Burrow, what? It's 2 more seasons till you have to start paying him his big money. So, like, you're right. This window, the Bengals are definitely at the start of their window, but I'm not going to say that window closes after 2 years. It just gets a
Oh
lot
no.
tougher after 2 years.
Yep, agreed. It's because it's going to be one of those things where the AFC North is going to have at least one competitive team, and while the others are rebuilding, they can. I don't ever underestimate Tomlin's Steelers. They made it this far with all the things they have going on.
hmm
So yeah, I think that the AFC is always up for grabs, and I think that you can put the Bengals in a conversation with the Bills and the Chiefs, but I think that they're still a little bit short of that mark just as of right now. So
Yeah.
as a Bengals fan, you should be extremely happy. I'm happy. I like when teams come out of not nowhere, because we kind of saw this coming a little bit. We didn't expect them to be the AFC North title champions, though, and we also didn't see a first round playoff win at home either. So give the Raiders the proper credit, because they went through the most adversity out of any team in the league this year, and they still
Yeah.
managed to make it down to the final play of the game. This game could have gone to overtime. I would have been really excited to see what their coach decided to do if they scored a touchdown. Like, would he go for it, go for two, or would he kick the extra point? I would have loved to have seen that surviving the previous week before. What do you think that the Raiders are going to do in the offseason? Do you think that they even need to hire a different coach? Because I think that the players have um, kind of come to an agreement here.
Yeah, no, I think the players have really got behind the coach that they have right now. I think he'll continue to be the head coach. I really, I mean, so I feel bad. I don't, for those who know Vaughn commented early on in the season on Twitter and said, what, like, he hasn't followed the NFL much, but essentially what's going on with the NFL. He said something about the Raiders, because I think he made a comment about their head coach, and I was like, the Raiders suck. Don't worry about the Raiders. And obviously they don't suck. They're in the playoffs. But, like, looking at this team and getting a full view, this team could be really special. This team could be a competitor once you start seeing that Chiefs windows close, which I think is sooner rather than later on that Chiefs window. I mean, obviously they played really well yesterday, but I think that once you start to see that Chiefs window close, this Raiders team could take a step up. Derek Carr, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league right now. Josh Jacobs, when you put a solid offensive line in front of him, he's a really good rusher, and he is a top 10 running back in the league, in my opinion. And then you have Darren Waller, you have Hunter Renfrow, you have Zay Jones, who I think has proven himself as a very competent NFL wide receiver and a guy who can get yards and be a type of guy who could have 1,000-yard season. It's about adding another weapon, I think, at the end of the day. You get another wide receiver on this team, because Edwards and Deshaun Jackson just aren't going to cut it at wide receiver for your
Yep.
2 and 3. I think Zay Jones is someone who can stay. I think Renfro is definitely someone who should stay, but getting that third wide receiver weapon could be really important. And we've already talked about it. This defense has taken major steps forward. Nate Hobbs, a great rookie pick for them. He's been amazing in the slot for this team. Trevin Moehrig, been an amazing safety that they picked. He's been really good this year. Denzel Perryman they picked up. He's been really solid at the linebacking position. Max Crosby, he got voted All
Yeah.
Pro. I don't think he deserved it, but he got voted All Pro. I mean, this defense is definitely taking a few steps forward. So you talk about adding one more difference maker to this defense, whether it be a safety, whether it be an extra corner, whether it be someone on the D line that can really make a difference there. This team could be going places, and this team could be a solid team for the next 3 years potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely I think that Derek Carr is one of the most underrated QBs in the league. Now he makes some mistakes down the line, and their offensive line needs a lot of help. By the way, Alex Leatherwood, one of the worst offensive linemen in the
Absolutely
league.
one of the worst offense. I've talked about
Like,
this since the beginning of the season. Alex Leatherwood sucks.
he's not great. Also,
Yeah.
I think he had like three holding penalties in the second half, just
Oh.
brutal. But anyway, yeah, and I mean, I definitely think that they still have a lot of obstacles to overcome, but they went through a lot of adversity this year and it overcame it. They have to figure out what they're doing with another like skill player position because frankly, Waller was fine, but I just don't think that him and Renfro can take this team to the next level. They'll need one more guy. And that guy, could have been Henry Ruggs. And we'll see what happens with him moving down the line here. But you say Chiefs window. Do you think that Chiefs window is over in the next 3 seasons?
Yes, I do. At some point, the Mahomes contract is you don't win with that type of contract at QB at the end of the day. Like I understand you had to pay him. Mahomes is a generational talent, so like obviously you have to pay him that money to keep him on board. But you can't pay quarterbacks that much money and expect to win and expect to put together a full team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I also think that the Chargers have a step up on the Chiefs in
Yeah.
terms of skill players and ages and contracts. So we'll see if the tide should turn shortly. I'm not going to say next year. I'll say, yeah, I mean, 3 years sounds about right.
Because 3 years from now, Kelsey's 37 years old, right?
He's probably done. I think that next year is probably his last, like, you're taking him in the first 2 rounds type of season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you see Kelsey some point soon take a fall off and isn't that top tier tight end anymore for the Chiefs. But this was a very good game. I think the Raiders, even though they lost, this is a very promising team overall. The defense is there. They dealt, like you said, they dealt with the most adversity out of any team in the NFL, and to still be at this point in the season where you had a chance to be to advance to the next round, and you were very close to advancing to the next round, is impressive. And hats off to them. It was a solid season.
Yeah, very solid. And now we're going to get to the part of the NFL recap where I ask you, do you think that Wild Card Weekend was a success in its new form? Because we saw 3 teams get absolutely destroyed. And 2 of them, frankly, shouldn't have been there in the Steelers and Eagles. They made valiant efforts to get there, but they should not have been there. So I'm not looping the Patriots in that conversation because I think they deserved it, but we had 3 blowouts, and it was Bills over Pats by 30, Eagles over Bucks by 16, which felt like 30, and the Chiefs beating the Steelers by 21, which felt like 50. So, I mean, what do you think there, and do you think that the league's going to continue this? Because I think that they do.
I think they do as well. I think so. Here's my question for you in rebuttal to that: is this Chiefs game better if it's the Colts instead? If the Colts end up getting that win in week 18, this game's probably a lot better at the end of the day. And you look at this game and it's probably at least within a touchdown or at least within 10 points. But yeah,
10
I mean,
points,
yeah, we knew this game was going to be we knew this game was going to get out of hand. Chiefs just did whatever they wanted. I mean, I know it looked relatively close for like the whole first quarter, and TJ Watt got that big touchdown, and so the Steelers looked like they had a little bit of a chance, but there was no chance here. Like at the end of the day, Chiefs were going to dominate, and I would say the same would go for all the other games. Maybe you can make a conversation about the Bills, But I think when you look at the Bills and you look at the Patriots, it's clear which team is the better of the two.
Oh yeah.
Patriots still have a lot of things to work out at the end of the day. It's a solid group, but still a lot of things. And it kind of comes into the conversation. I was listening to sports radio this morning, and they made a great point. Like, you're this Patriots team. You obviously have worked some things out, right? Your defense has gotten a little bit better. The Judon payday has definitely worked out. But you paid a lot of guys, and their contracts are still there. And, like,
They're
they
tight
didn't.
ends.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tight ends, exactly. Jonnu Smith had a terrible season for what you paid him. Nelson Aguilar had a pretty bad season for what you paid him, and they're still getting paid next year. So, like, does this team have enough room for improvement next year with the current contracts they have? Because I'm pretty sure they are almost at no money to pay anyone for the next season.
I think their defense is going to be just fine. They have a different style of winning than what we used to. Well, I mean, we've seen every kind of team with Tom and Bill, but this is like in the early stages of what they were going through, where they would win with a very, very balanced overall thing, and then once they figured out who Tom Brady was, then they got superstar power. Then you have the guys like Welker, Randy Moss, Gronk was coming in, like yeah, so. No, you don't see any of those guys on this Patriots team for skill players, and they have this banged up running back group. They've had it for the last 5 years. James White's on his way out after a brutal injury earlier in the season. So yeah, I mean they have a lot of things to figure out. Like Myers is nice, but he is not all pro, and I don't think that he ever gets there. With Mac as his quarterback at least. So we'll see. I thought Hunter
Yeah.
Henry was going to be a stud, and he just wasn't. So
No, yeah.
I don't really know what else to say about the Patriots offense. They have a lot of things to figure out, and they'll be back in the conversation as they always are. I didn't think that they were going to be that great this year after they started off really rocky, but they pushed through it, and I think Mac Jones. Sean and I had this conversation again, and he's still Burrow over Herbert, and Mac Jones is still in the conversation right now. And we talked about how I told him he should have sold his Mac Jones. He called me at halftime, and he said, "Should I like? What do you think I should do?" Because he wanted to like give away a Mac Jones or a Josh Allen, but he doesn't have much Josh Allen. So I was like, "Yeah, you might want to sell all your Mac Jones stuff like tonight, unless you want
Yeah.
to hold on to it. Unless you want to hold on to it until August of next year." Or of this year, and he didn't. And he said that the floor fell through the roof by like 50% on Mac Jones stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so Jones is obviously the quarterback for the next 4 or 5 years, right, for this team. Like, but do you
Yep, at
see
minimum.
him at minimum? Like, he's going to be throughout the rookie contract and throughout the contract extension. I bet he gets that extension as well. Do you see him go like what? What is your trajectory for Mac Jones right now? Because I mean, yeah, he's done really well. He almost got offensive rookie of the year. You could definitely still make the case he could be offensive rookie of the year. But like, is this that next level guy that can take the Patriots to a Super Bowl?
I think so, mainly due to his coach. And
Yeah.
then you start to worry about how old Bill Belichick is.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Bill
that's
said he's
kind
going to
of
be back for next year. He said it during his season-ending
okay.
press conference that he plans on coaching next season. So that is
Yep,
the
he
plan
is.
right now.
He will be turning 70 in April.
Oh
Bill
my
Belichick will.
god! I mean, like
So
I knew he was old. I did not know he was that old though.
I think he still has. He's gonna die a coach.
Yeah, seriously.
I think he's at least 75 until he thinks about retiring.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the end of the Mac Jones minimum run. We'll see how it goes, but people thought the same thing about Tom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like they had question marks surrounding that after his, after he started at the position. So the only difference was that Mac Jones basically had a clean slate, whereas Tom took over a job beforehand.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one thing is for sure that I do know though is they'll be back in it, and also I do think that Jamar Chase, like if he doesn't win Offensive Rookie of the Year, I just don't know what else he has to do.
For all the people that keep saying it's that Chiefs center, I need them to shut up and stop saying it's that Chiefs center. Have you seen all this talk about how the Chiefs center deserves Offensive Rookie of the Year? I forget his first name. His last name's Creed.
Oh, I know that he's left-handed. That's all I know about him.
Uh, all I know is that people keep. I mean, like he's been a very solid center. Don't get me wrong. He's been the best center in the NFL. When when you look at the numbers, he doesn't deserve Offensive Rookie of the Year. Sorry, I still think it's Jamar Chase at the end of the day. I've always thought it's been Jamar Chase. I thought the people who said it was going to be Mac Jones are just kind of insane a little bit, but here and there, whatever. Let's talk about some of these other games that we had, some of the other blowout games that we've had. Um, I mean, the Bucks game. I know it looks closer when you see 31-15, but the Bucks had true control. I mean, I feel like those two touchdowns were just kind of the Bucks taking their foot off the pedal a little bit in the fourth quarter and just I'm not going to say letting them score because I don't think they let them score, but the Eagles were bound to get something when the Bucks are up 31-0.
Yeah, I mean, that's just that. It's just that they were up 31-0 with like 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So it was complete domination. I feel bad for whoever took a Tampa Bay live minus 25 plus or something, because that could have been a thing. But yeah, I mean, Boston Scott gets in the end zone. Jalen Hurts makes a fantastic throw with an even better catch to Devontae Smith.
Hmm.
But yeah, and that's just, at the end of the day, it's the Eagles just weren't. There was no match, and the line was weird. It was 8.5 to Tampa, and I thought that was incredibly too low for a home field game. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tampa's good, but I think this is more about like because I asked this question too in the chat yesterday, early on in the day. Is it more about Tampa being a good football team, or is it just the vast disparity of skill and talent at the wild card edition this year?
Yeah. I can definitely get behind that. I want to pose the same question that I did with the AFC and just talk about the NFC. Does this look different if it's a different team? Does this I think you could make the case that this game looks a lot different if it's the Saints who end up getting into the playoffs instead of the Eagles getting into the playoffs. We know that Tom Brady's had a ton of problems with that Saints team, so like maybe that looks different. Maybe this game looks a little bit different if the Seahawks were fully healthy. Like if Russell Wilson is healthy in that time when he broke his hand or broke his finger or whatever, maybe then the game looks different. But you deal with the ebbs and flows of the NFL season. Obviously, players are going to get hurt here and there. You can't make excuses for it. But I feel like, this game, yes, the Eagles didn't really show up as a 7 seed. The 7 seed could look different in years to come. And could look a lot more improved because I do feel like just because of COVID and so many other factors that made the NFL season have a lot of variance, that's kind of a reason that we have a such a big talent disparity between the 7 seed and the 2 seed.
Sure. I think that the only team that could have kept it competitive that wasn't in the playoffs was the Saints, and
Yeah.
that's it. I don't like, yeah, I mean, injuries are injuries, but the Eagles just don't, they only have one identity, and it's run the ball. And when you're facing one of the top defenses against the run, although shaky the last couple of weeks, they clearly had no game plan, and they had Devontae Smith one-on-one coverage for almost the entire game and just refused to throw the ball to him. It worked out with Dallas Goedert, got a lot of garbage time in the second half, but they don't have an identity in the passing game, and that's going to be their biggest flaw until they figure that out. Now they have a couple of first-round picks this year. I don't think that they use any of them on offense, but they'll still probably try to. If they do, it'll be an offensive line situation. Uh, but we'll see. I mean, the Eagles. We've kind of been an Eagles tank stream all season long,
Yeah, we
and
have.
now they're 500, and yes, they have a lot of first round picks, but I'm not too sure. Like you're happy about the actually getting to the playoffs. I think that you're happy about that as an Eagles fan, but a long term play, this was not the right move this season.
I've talked about it a ton how teams really need to have their identity from the get go. Like, are you going to be a competitor or are you going to be a team that, and I'm not going to say tanks, but isn't very good, gets good draft picks and improves from it? The playing this middle of the field game like the Eagles did this year is your worst case scenario at the end of the day. Um, I mean, we talked about where those picks were halfway through the season, and they were projected to get 2 picks in the top 16 and then 1 pick at the later of the first round. Now I'm
Yep.
pretty sure every single one of those picks come after the top 16, and I think 2 of them are going to be 20 plus. So like, it's just it's a completely. You talk about how this team could have got like a really. I don't know why I'm blanking on the safety's name right now, but the safety in this draft that gets drafted in the first 4 picks. I want to say his last name's like Hamilton or something. I don't know. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name, but he's a generational talent. You add him to this team and it completely improves a secondary that was already getting better because of Darius Slay, but you add him into everything and it's an incredible secondary. So, I I don't know. I feel like it's a drastic mistake. I think maybe you trade all those picks to go up a little bit. I feel like this is a little bit more top heavy of a draft. It's not as well rounded as drafts in previous years. So I feel like packaging all those picks together to try to get up there and try to get that generational talent could be something that that you see this Eagles team do.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about that. I think you're right. I
Kyle
also want to give
Hamilton
a
is his name, by the way. That's the
okay.
safety that I'm talking about
Yeah.
from Notre Dame.
Got it. Yep. Shout out to Chris, our AP, because he nailed this take yesterday before any of those games in the NFC East went final. So he said that he doesn't believe in the NFC East, and he hasn't believed in any of those teams all season because it was the easiest division in the league,
Yeah,
and who they faced, and their the teams that were put on their board there. And the Eagles had not beaten a playoff team the entire regular season. Now they had plenty of opportunities to do that. You know, they had the Cowboys twice. They had the Bucks obviously in the playoffs. I believe they played the Bucks earlier in the year as well, and they played some really good teams, and they lost to all of them. So Dallas, same exact scenario.
yeah.
When's the last time Dallas put up a win against somebody that was a competent team in the regular season? I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
ever.
I
I
don't
don't
think.
think this year. Maybe I'll just maybe one or two. So let's
Let me see.
go and check really
Yeah.
quick.
They lost to the Cardinals. I'm looking through here. They lost to the Raiders in OT. They lost to the Chiefs. They won against the Patriots, so there's one team. But that was a little bit of a fluky win. You know, I remember that win because that was the win where one of our members won $1 million. That was an OT win. They won against the Chargers much earlier in the season. They kept it close with the Bucks. We all remember that game at the beginning of the year, and that's it. So a win against the Chargers and a win against the Patriots, 2 wins against playoff teams, and then losses
Yeah,
to
one playoff team.
what do you mean? Oh yeah, one
Chargers
playoff
are a
team. You're
playoff
right.
team.
The Chargers on a playoff team. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. Lost to the Chiefs, lost to the Raiders, lost to the Cardinals, and you're right. This team does not have very many playoff wins. So at the end of the day, this isn't a surprise. Here, let me pose this question to you: which division is worse, the NFC East or the AFC South? AFC South's pretty bad, man. Like you look at
AFC
the
South's pretty bad. It's because
AFC.
they have two bad teams in them.
Yeah,
So
both
um,
divisions have 2 bad teams,
oh
but I
yeah,
would
you're
say
right.
that the
Yeah, you're
Washington
right.
football team and the Giants are better than the Jags and the. Why am I forgetting the other AFC South team? You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
because they don't exist because it's
Yeah,
the Texans.
yeah. There you go. Thank you. So
But yeah, no, I mean that's just more to like that's why I think that the Titans are such a fraudulent one seed. So
yeah,
we'll see how that pans out this week.
yeah. So the Titans are going to end up getting the Bengals. We know that the Titans are going to be favorites in that game, 3.5 point favorites. I give me Bengals, man. I know you're probably on the same train here, but give me Bengals to get a win here.
Yeah, Bacon wants to know how you rank the NFC North in those conversations.
The
I
NFC
still
North
think I
is
still think that
not.
they have better teams.
I agree. I still think the NFC, like I know the Lions and yeah, I don't know. Lions and Bears are pretty bad, so I don't know. They definitely give the NFC East a run for their money, but at the end of the day, I still think the NFC East is a little bit worse. I think at the end of the day, though, AFC South is the worst division in the NFL.
Here's the thing: the NFC North, all of those teams had to play all of the NFC West teams, and that's where the
Mm,
disparity in the league and the
yeah.
playoffs is this year. You have one team from the NFC North, you have three teams from the NFC West. That will shift as the league shifts, and that's why there's a technical schedule competitive balance. Every now and then, it definitely swings one direction, and we saw that this year with the three NFC West teams. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. And also the worst NFC team had 7 wins, which I don't think any division can say that. No, they can't. So yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, the Dallas Cowboys not
Yeah.
being a good team. Yeah. Anyway, like
America
yeah,
rejoices.
it was great. It was awesome to watch. I love it whenever that happens.
Yeah.
So let's kind of wrap this thing up. We've been talking for 45 minutes about the NFL. We'll preview tonight's game very quickly. There's not much more to say about it. It's Cardinals, Rams. The road teams won each, and this is the third matchup between the two. I think that the Cardinals do have a shot to take this one, given the home field advantage component. I also think that the Rams are kind of stumbling in here. They don't really have much of an identity outside of Cooper Kupp. The game should be close, but it really comes down to the Cardinals running back situation. Who's healthy? How healthy are they? And how do we do this? Because both Edmonds and Connor are extremely banged up right now.
Yes, both are banged up. Edmonds is able to get in a limited practice on Saturday. Connor was seen at practice on Saturday, so it's going to be interesting to see which one of these running backs or both of them are able to come in healthy. But it's going to be a very interesting game. My money's on the Cardinals here. I think Cardinals are gonna. I know the Rams are at home, but the Cardinals are gonna have a home field advantage just because you're gonna see a ton of fans travel out. You're gonna see this Rams team with Stafford as an unexperienced QB. I think struggle a little bit in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see this game. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think the Cardinals end up getting a big W here. So we'll just have to see what happens. But it's setting up for a really enticing next round. The divisional round is gonna be a lot of fun.
It will. One more thing before we just wrap up the NFL section. We got a tip from Gusti in our server saying that there's this tweet that came out from Paul at Paul Hembo on Twitter. It said playoff wins in the last 25 seasons. Jake Delhomme, 5. Trent Dilfer, 5. Mark Sanchez, 4. Brad Johnson, 4. Colin Kaepernick, 4. The Dallas Cowboys, 3.
Three. The whole Cowboys organization, 3. Yeah, what? You put this in here. They have the lowest, they have one of the lowest playoff win percentages over the last 25 seasons at their playoff percentage being 231. That's awful, man. And some of these other teams like the Bengals are in here, they're 125. The Washington team is in here at 250. The Dolphins are in here at 300, but like obviously these teams have played such a lower amount of games than the Cowboys
Mm-hmm.
have over the last 25 years. And it's just pretty consistent that the Cowboys are a team that just doesn't show up to the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see what that team does in the offseason. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the UFC because that happened on Saturday. It was a great group of fights. It was a lot of fun to watch. Let's just talk about the main event because I know we're a little bit rushed for time. Calvin Kattar comes out, gets a humongous win. He almost put a beating on Giga Chikadze like Max Holloway put on him just about a year ago. I mean, the guy looked dominant. That wrestling that he employed in the first round really kind of changed the game and made Giga really tired. I talked about it in my article. Like the one way that Calvin Kattar could end up winning this one is if he implores that wrestling. Now, he's not a typical wrestler. He has shot 10 takedowns over his UFC career. Even the takedowns that he was shooting at the end of that fight were pretty awful takedowns, in my opinion. But Giga cannot earn the respect of Calvin Kattar, and just the fact that Giga was having to back up for the whole second and third round, it tires someone out when you have to back up like that. He needed to plant his feet. I was yelling at my TV and I was talking with a buddy about this. Just kick him. Like if you kick him and gain some respect, he won't keep rushing you like this. But he kept backing up. He kept trying to use his punching skills. It just didn't work out. So Calvin Kattar gets a humongous win. But UFC members got to win on FanDuel. We got to win on DraftKings. Didn't win in the betting department, but I will take 2 out of 3 coming in the UFC 270. And yeah, I don't know if you got the chance to watch this. I'm sure you were watching football, but give me any of your thoughts on the Chikadze and Kattar fight.
Yeah, I saw some highlights, but I was watching. Unfortunately, the Bills just trounced the Patriots. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it looks like I did one thing I did see was that you talk about Cater's takedowns. There was a specific, like it seemed like from the get-go he was just in control, and he did have a takedown in the first round.
Yep.
That's, I guess, what surprises me from your conversation and take on that. So I did not know all of that, obviously. So the
Mm.
fact that he was able to do that so early in the fight kind of just transcribed how it went. I'm actually kind of surprised looking back that it did go all 5 rounds.
Yeah, both of these guys were battered and bruised by the end of it. Chikadze was just at the end of every round, just his whole face was covered in blood. I mean, he was getting the jab that Kattar had was absolutely phenomenal and worked wonders here. Um, and he had some sick and nasty elbows that he threw at Chikadze that really just roughed him up at the end of the day and won him the decision here. That takedown in the first round was insane too. Chikadze throws a kick, ends up slipping on the floor, and
Yep.
Kattar literally flies through midair to wrap him up and take him down. Like it was a phenomenal takedown. He definitely had some risk there, but the fact that he got that takedown, implored the wrestling, made Chikadze waste a lot of his gas tank on that wrestling, really, really hurt Chikadze. And so that's where we end up. The real question is, where do we go from here in the featherweight division? Because Kattar gets this win, right? Can't put him up against Max Holloway. Max Holloway had too dominant of a win last time out. It doesn't make much sense to pair him up again. Kattar, I talked to some people that know a lot of UFC. They don't feel like he's really earned his shot against the champion because Holloway hasn't got his shot against the champion. So it feels like Holloway
Mhm.
should be up first. What do you do with Calvin Kattar now? Do you give him another shot to prove himself at featherweight? Do you ask him to move up to 155 to give Charles Oliveira another competitor? Like the thing, I'm very confused what you do at Calvin Kattar. There's obviously a spot in this division for Giga Chikadze because he is that up and comer. But Calvin Kattar's 33 years old. He turns 34 in March. You're running out of your career at that point when you're at the featherweight division. You don't usually featherweight fighters don't do very well after the age of 35. So I'm very curious to see what fight Calvin Kattar gets next. Should be very soon. I know he took a year off since the Holloway fight, but we usually see Calvin Kattar fight every 4 or 3 months. So we should get that fight decision relatively soon. And I'm excited to see who the UFC matches him up against. I saw someone say Ortega. I think the Ortega decision's kind of smart. Kind of give Ortega a chance to prove himself again and maybe get another fight against Volk. But this featherweight division is kind of put on hold by Max Holloway, and I'm tired of Holloway holding this division hostage.
Yeah, has Cater fought Ortega, Rodriguez, or Sun Yun?
Has not fought any of them. Yeah, has not fought
Okay,
any of them.
then he doesn't deserve a chance for the
Yeah,
title.
exactly. Yeah, that's the thing is that like you can't. But like I don't know. I hope he gets his fight against Ortega. I think that's the one that makes the most sense to me. Ortega, or you just said, giving him Yair Rodriguez as well would make a lot of sense too. So either one of those two would definitely be a good fight for Kattar to prove himself and potentially get up to that title shot. But he deserves the title shot soon. He's been in the featherweight division forever, and he has a lot of solid wins here. So giving him a spot to compete for that title shot would be a lot of fun to watch him against Volk, especially because Volk does not rely necessarily, but he has a lot of that TKO power. And Kattar never knocked out at the UFC level, so it would be interesting to see how they go head to head against each other. But that's enough for UFC. Like I said, 2 and 3 or 2 out of 3 wins on the weekend. We got to win on FanDuel, got to win on DraftKings. Did not end up winning over with the betting side of things, but that's okay. We move on, and UFC 270 is going to be a blast. We have. Can we make this announcement now that we're doing the watch along on Twitch with members for UFC 270? So that's going to start when the main event starts. We will be on stream with you guys, having a good time. I'm going to bring some drinks to the party. I hope Jared is going to bring some drinks to the party, and we're going to have a good time watching the fights with y'all.
Yeah, it should be pre-stated now that I'll probably be half in the bag before we even start this,
Awesome.
because
Yeah.
it's gonna be at least halftime in the Niners Packers game.
Yep.
So yeah, it's gonna be a fun thing. We're trying to do this every month too for UFC pay-per-views. So uh,
Yep.
I think that it'll be awesome.
It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a good time. We get to sweat out some fights. I get to give you guys some of my, because I live bet on every single card that I get the opportunity to watch, and usually I just don't have enough time to update you guys on exactly what I'm taking and putting a reasoning behind it. And so like being on stream and being able to talk with you guys round by round and tell you guys some of my live bets will be a lot of fun. It'll be a good time. So make sure to tune in for that on Saturday. I don't know if we have an exact start time yet, but we will soon.
I believe that I put 8:30, but we'll have to see. I gave
Nice.
us a 30-minute window because the card technically is 9 o'clock Central.
Okay. Sweet. Sounds good. All right. Anything else with UFC? If not, let's talk about NBA and what happened over the weekend.
Just that, there's drama here about Ngannou saying that he won't fight in the UFC under
Yeah.
his current deal.
Yeah, I think
So
I truly think Ngannou goes to boxing. Um, I think you see Gon end up getting a win here this weekend. I know I'm putting it out a little early. I still haven't done all my film study yet, so still got a lot to do. But I think Gon gets a win here because it seems like Ngannou's just distracted, and I think you see him make the move over to boxing and not do very well with boxing at the end of the day. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But let's move on to the NBA. We got a lot of injury news this weekend, which kind of sucks. But Durant with an MCL sprain is going to be out at least a month for this Nets team. And Levine had an injury, I think Friday night, but we found out no structural damage. But that Bulls team injured as well. We're seeing the East kind of be vulnerable with that number one spot. There's some potential that some of these teams can step up.
yeah, Durant down for 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. Not good. He does not have a very good tenure with lower leg injuries. So we'll see how he recovers from that. Just as they get Kyrie back too. That's
No.
kind of just how these things always work. Zach LaVine should see a huge bump for Lonzo and for DeMar DeRozan moving forward here. Hopefully he's back. I think he's back a little bit earlier than Durant. I would expect him to be a couple weeks probably. And then I guess we don't have to talk about much more than that. I will just say that Magic Johnson's been voicing his opinion on what the Lakers should be doing this year.
Yeah, I even saw LeBron put out a little tweet last night saying, "Sorry, Lakers Nation, I'll do better for you." I don't know if LeBron plays today, but I think he absolutely hoops in his next game, and he does play today against the Utah Jazz. I would expect him to put on a show after that comment he made. I mean, we know when he's determined to take control of things, he usually goes ham. So, especially on MLK Day too. Yeah, I think
Yep,
you see LeBron put on a show tonight.
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun when we get to talk about that on the NBA DFS members only podcast, but that comes a little bit later in the day. Let's talk about the esports update. Had a member win $7,500 on a lineup he made based off of the article. An absolutely sick win for Roto Radar. And man, the esports train keeps on chugging because Anthony has just been phenomenal to start out the year.
Very nice first week, 5 top 1% slate finishes. Not just five wins, like 5 top 1% wins as a
Dude's an
collective
animal.
whole. So yeah, they even won this morning too, from what I saw. So
Insane.
yeah, insane. You guys need to sign up with him. If you need any promo codes, we'll help you out. Just DM us in Discord, and we'll get you set up with that. Yeah, let's keep moving on. We have some NHL blind dogs to talk about,
Yes,
as well
sir.
as a sport that actually did MLK Day scheduling the right way for DFS.
Oh, did they actually start at the right time, unlike NBA DFS, who just decided to botch the whole damn thing?
Yeah, well, they're starting today. There's a game at noon, but the slate actually starts at 4 Eastern, so
That's
we have a
still
lot to
better.
choose from. Still better than NBA. I wanted to, it's always nice to sweat day basketball. I remember them locking at 11 o'clock in the morning.
It's the best thing to sweat day basketball is better. Like that's why NBA slates are so much fun is because you get day basketball, and you had a prime opportunity, FanDuel and DraftKings, and you completely effed it up. So I mean, just what a terrible way to go about this slate. FanDuel starts at 6 p.m. DraftKings starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's gonna be fun to cover those slates, but man, what it could have been if we actually got like some day basketball. There's an early only slate, so maybe I'll provide a little something for like an afternoon only or an early only slate, but we'll just have to see. Regardless, let's get to some NHL dog bets. Who are you taking here?
I was just looking at the early slate for NBA. Not like crazy, but Charlotte, New York is still a good game.
Yeah.
Um, New Orleans and Boston are going to tip off here in 40 minutes too.
Ooh.
NHL, I still can't bet basketball spreads. There's no point. Let's see. Hockey, like I said, there's like 8 games today, 9 games today. Um, all right. So I have not been doing very well over the last week and a half. My total record right now is 3-6. You are 3-5. So we gotta win a dog here in the next couple days.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go with the Philadelphia Flyers at plus 166 over the New York Islanders.
Very nice. I like the bet. Give me my Predators, man. I'm gonna keep the Predators have not done me dirty here. I think I picked them twice and they've won both times. So Nashville Predators plus 112 on the road. I'll take the Preds. And so there are our NHL blind dogs. Jared, it's been an hour. Let's get out of here. Any final thoughts?
We'll have Rams Cardinals slate and information posted tonight. The 3-game slate does, or the 3-day slate does end with tonight's cap as well. Should be a fun, interesting game. Last Monday Night Football game of the season.
Wow, that's crazy. Yep, going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see what you do with your lineups and your DFS content. But it's going to be a good day of sports. You know, we got NHL coming up. We got NBA this evening. And then obviously we have NFL as well. So make sure to keep up to date with everything that we're doing. And as always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.